In this lessons episode, explore how blockchain challenges traditional institutions by creating financial choice and accountability. Discover how decentralized systems compete for consent and keep structures honest. Understand why responsible risk-taking and diversification matter in crypto, and uncover how curiosity and caution enable smarter participation in the digital economy. But even blockchain is an attempt at freedom from ingrained, entrenched institutional systems, right? That's
Yes,
what it is.
that's bingo. And the thing that's fascinating is that the existing systems aren't able to offer us freedom. They're not able to. And the reason why I assert they're not able to is even if you like it there, you still don't have a choice. Like you don't have an alternative financial system where you can basically choose to go. But now you do, right? So, what has emerged out of blockchain technologies is this alternative financial system. And the thing that it does is it does two things, right? The first thing it does is it competes for consent. So, what that means is that it's trying to serve you the best, right? And if
Mhm.
you don't like it, you shouldn't come over, right? So in essence, but the other thing that it's doing other than providing an alternative is it does what all alternatives do, which is it keeps the competition honest, right? So it actually now says, I'm going to compete for your consent. So the existing system must also compete for your consent, right? And if you like me better, then you'll come over here. And if you don't like it, then you'll stay, right? Which is like, what a nice thing, right? So it helps everyone. And what I mean by it helps everyone is, let's say there's a safe place where you can escape. Like, let's say it's a safe home, right? And let's say it's in a neighborhood that's a lot like where you live, right? So, like, the existence of that is great for people that need a safe place to go, right? They need to go somewhere, so they're going to go, and that gives them freedom, right? If you like where you are, then you should
Mhm.
stay, right? So, but it gives, but what I'm suggesting to you is it gives you freedom too. Even if you don't go over there, the existence of that gives you the ability to withdraw consent. So if suddenly you find yourself in a situation where you're like, okay, the system was working beautifully for me, and now it's not, so now I have a place to go, right? And even if you don't ever go there, it's still going to keep the system you're in honest, right?
Mhm.
Because of that competition. So, that's really kind of the mindset that I'm excited about, because, when we talk about this kind of blockchain tech, like Satoshi Nakamoto created this entire paradigm around fork it and go, right? That's what he created. And so in a sense, like, that means I'm not like a Bitcoin maximalist, because like the whole point of it is anyone can fork it at any time. And if they don't like anything, they can just change it, right? And so a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like this feature, I don't like that feature. It's like, great, fork it and go. Like, if it's
S-
better, everyone will go with your version. Everyone will
But
leave if it's better.
so the issue with the evolution of this environment is that you have these highly technical individuals that adopt and subscribe to that mindset, but for the rest of the world that is just trying to keep up and understand, because of the ability to fork it and go and to just create new and to create business and to create alternative blockchains and to create different applications and whatnot, it's very hard to keep up and to figure out what's good and what's not, which is
Oh
really
man.
right. That's the issue. You're in it, you see what's good, you can besides being a venture capitalist, you understand the actual technology, but then you also work with these founders and these developers day in day out, so the people behind certain other projects, obviously not Bitcoin, but other projects like some of the ones that you've invested in, some of the ones that I'm sure that you work with every single day. You have an idea of what works and what doesn't, and why it would work or why it doesn't make any sense. But you're deep, like you're in the weeds. So that's the issue that everybody's running into, right?
I think that is very, very legitimate, right? Which is that it is like this revenge of the nerds type of a universe. And the thing that I think is so important is this, right? Which is, I think to me, if I were to give any single advice to people who are new in this area, is I would say like don't be in a big hurry, right? Like just go in, don't invest like a huge amount. Like just see what happens, right? Because the
Yeah.
point is like there's some games where you consent, and I call them games, right? I'm talking about a system of rules that you consent to operate under, right? So this could include a country where there
Hmm.
are laws, or it can include a monetary system like a Bitcoin, or it can include open source software. It can include a literal kind of a video game, right? Like all of these systems have rules that you consent to agree to. So the thing is that oftentimes the rule sets are complex, right? It could even be like a cult that you want to join, right? It's like, oh, I want to join this cult, right? So there's all these weird rules, and you're kind of like, okay, I consent to these rules until I don't, right? And so there's this process that I call that's called mechanism discovery, right? So mechanism discovery is you play, right? You play around, and you're like, it's just like going to a new country or a new place. You're at first you're a little bit like, I don't know what the deal is here, and you can immediately be like, I don't like the way people are acting, but maybe if you have curiosity, and maybe if you're like, these seem like okay people, like, then maybe you kind of are like, well, why do they keep doing that, or why do they keep saying that? After a while you might discover that there's some pretty cool stuff behind that, right? You might discover like, oh wow, like I get why they're acting like that. That's so different, right? And then you kind of grow as a human, right? So, or it's a cult. And you
Hmm.
show up
Yeah.
there, and after a little while you're like, wow, like this whole freaking deal is rigged against me. Like they're trying to like mess with me and like take over and steal my house. I don't know what they're doing, but like my point is that um that's why the ability to withdraw consent is so important for any reason at any time, or for no reason at all, right? Like if you just are like, I'm done here, like boom, you
Yeah.
should be able to get out. Now the thing that's a little unfortunate is that there are systems in blockchain and in the Bitcoin area where you can't leave, right? Like for example, in some cases where there's like a scam, like you
Hmm.
deposit a bunch of money and then you go over to the withdraw section, like, okay, I'm ready to withdraw. I'm kind of sick of this place, and you click withdraw, and then it just there's some, oh, it's a software bug, like you can't get your things out ever, right? So like
And how many
if
times
you
have you see that in the news every month, right? I think there was
it
just
happens,
one
it
in
happens.
South Africa. It was like 3 billion to it was just like last week, but it happens all the time.
It's a little unclear. One of the really funny things about that is there was reporting about it that had their website, and a past version of their website, fairly recent actually, was bragging about how they have like 100 million in assets, right? And so like
Oh,
it's
okay.
unclear that it's as big as 3.6 billion. That is definitely what was reported. If so, it's the largest so-called hack in Bitcoin history. But I think that, but you're absolutely right. Like that's an example, right? That's an example where it's like, oh, you can deposit, but you can't withdraw. That's a problem, right? Like,
Hmm.
so and obviously that's the opposite of freedom, right? Because you can't leave, right? Your assets can't leave, right? So
And so
that
part
it's
of
a trick.
I love this, by the way. I actually love the philosophical, the way that you first went into this. I appreciate that a lot because that really helps frame it for somebody who is trying to understand the nuance of what Bitcoin, blockchain, crypto, DeFi is. So um, one one thing that I would also point out is, and I was watching one of your pizzas. You did like the surviving the wild west of DeFi, and I think there's a lot of great lessons in that for people that are seeing DeFi and trying to figure out what the hell it is, and even people that understood blockchain and Bitcoin before, and then what's DeFi. So one thing that is important though is sometimes it's not the system that's like you said, it's not always a system. Of course, the system, if they scam you, they scam you, and the system doesn't let you leave. But also, it's your own personality. It's your own perhaps over indexing on a system and over trusting on a system before you fully understand it, which has led to issues. And you spoke
Yeah,
about that a lot.
that is absolutely core, right? Which is, I think to me, people don't have a really good sense of like risk management, right? So if you watch professional asset managers like venture capital, right? One of the
Hmm.
key principles is diversification, right? Because, the thing that's really important to ask yourself is like, do I know what I'm doing, right? And by the way, the definition, so if you read the book Zero to One by Peter Thiel, right, he effectively defines an investor as someone who doesn't know what to do, right? And the reason he defines it that way is an entrepreneur is someone who is basically quote unquote knows what to do because they're just doing the thing, right? So for example, if you take, his most famous investment, Facebook, right? Like if you're Mark Zuckerberg, you're not diversifying. You're just going to go 1,000,000,000% into Facebook because that's the thing, right? And so so by investing, you're immediately someone who doesn't know what to do, right? Because you're diversifying, and so diversification is a very fundamental pattern of dealing with risk, right? So in a sense, like if you think about it, like one approach is play, right? So when I
Hmm.
describe play, right, the idea becomes that, play has to be based on a losable amount, right? So I kind of call this like Grand Canyon money. Imagine you're at the lip of the Grand Canyon and you're throwing an amount of money into the Grand Canyon, right? Like, so whatever that amount is for you, like that's probably your first kind of Bitcoin purchase amount, So if it's $5 or if that's too much, maybe it's like a buck 50 or whatever you can imagine
Yeah.
throwing into the Grand Canyon, right? Because, and obviously like, if you're picturing throwing your life savings into the Grand Canyon, like, like good luck. But,
Yeah.
I think broadly speaking, like that's the first thing, right? Play. And then I think as you start to kind of get your feet wet, then diversification, right? Where you basically take the number of Grand Canyon units and you maybe multiply that by like three or four, and then you try three or four different things, and each time you're kind of learning more and more about these games, and as you learn more, you have a better and better chance of like deriving your own opinion. Because that's the thing that I think is unfortunate is, you know, the existence of influencers in crypto is like just human weakness. Like
Hmm.
it's really, it's been a toxic effect because, most of the so-called influencers are, they're self-interested parties, right? They're basically predatory. So, that's so just blindly following what other people tell you to buy on the internet is just provably bad.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this valuable, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you want to dive deeper into this conversation, check out the links in the description to watch the full episode. See you in the next one.